Imagine waking up in a world where bugs are bigger than dogs, centipedes the size of cars roam your backyard, and dragonflies have wingspans as wide as an eagle's. Sound like a nightmare? It was real. Millions of years ago, Earth was ruled by colossal creatures, many of them invertebrates so massive that if they were alive today, humanity might not stand a chance. What wiped them out? Why were they so big? And most terrifying of all, what if they were still here? Welcome to the real-life horror show of prehistoric giants. In this video, we'll dive into 10 ancient monsters that once ruled land, sea, and sky, creatures so big and dangerous that if they were still around, we'd probably still be hiding in caves. This isn't science fiction. This is ancient reality. Let's begin with the first nightmare on our list. 1. Arthropleura, the car-sized millipede. Over 8 feet long and as wide as a grown man's chest, arthropleura was the largest invertebrate to ever crawl across land. This armored millipede lived during the Carboniferous period, around 300 million years ago, in swampy forests rich in oxygen. With no large predators and an oxygen-rich atmosphere, this creature thrived. Though it was likely a herbivore, imagine what it would be like today to find a centipede longer than your car crawling across your driveway. Even if it didn't want to eat you, the psychological terror alone would keep most people indoors. Our modern pest control wouldn't even scratch it. If arthropleura existed now, city infrastructure would need to be redesigned, parks would be hazardous zones, and rural areas would likely be uninhabitable. 2. Megafauna, the giant dragonfly. Megafauna looked like today's dragonflies, except it had a wingspan of nearly 30 inches, about the size of a modern eagle. That's not just unnerving, it's horrifying. These aerial predators flew during the Carboniferous period, feeding on other insects and possibly even small amphibians. If megafauna still ruled the skies, a walk through the forest might feel like entering an aerial warzone. The buzzing of their massive wings would be impossible to ignore, and their territorial nature could turn any human into prey. We'd likely need protective gear just to hike or travel outdoors. And just imagine the sound, an insect with the wingspan of a hawk flying past your ear. That's straight out of a sci-fi horror film. 3. Gecalopterus, the sea scorpion bigger than you. This sea scorpion was over 8 feet long and lived in both freshwater and marine environments. It had huge claws that could crush its prey, including early fish. Gecalopterus was a predator, and you wouldn't want to meet it in the water. Now picture going for a swim in a river or lake and encountering a giant arthropod longer than your bed. Fishing, swimming, and water recreation would be nearly impossible in a world where this monster lurks beneath the surface. Modern scuba gear would have to be reinforced, and underwater drones would be required just to safely map rivers. Gecalopterus would control waterways like crocodiles control rivers in Africa, only much more aggressively. 4. Pulmonoscorpius, the giant land scorpion. At nearly 3 feet long, Pulmonoscorpius was one of the largest scorpions to ever walk the earth. Found in the Carboniferous forests, it likely preyed on insects, amphibians, and possibly even small vertebrates. If Pulmonoscorpius was around today, desert hikes and forest camping would be an extreme sport. These things would easily crawl under vehicles, into homes, or worse, into your tent. Modern pest control would need military-grade tech, and antivenom stockpiles would be mandatory in every hospital. Living in scorpion-prone areas like Arizona or Australia, you might have to evacuate entirely. 5. Titanoboa, the snake that ate crocodiles. Jumping forward to the Paleocene epoch, about 60 million years ago, Titanoboa was a serpent over 40 feet long and weighing more than a ton. It lived in steamy tropical swamps and could easily take down crocodiles. If it lived today, forget swimming holes in South America. Even military patrols would be required just to map the swamps. Entire villages would have to be relocated. No fence could keep a Titanoboa out. It could slither through pipelines, flatten cars, and coil around your house like a garden hose from hell. 6. Camarasaurus, the kraken's grandfather. This was an ancient cephalopod, similar to modern squids, but with a rigid shell and a body stretching nearly 40 feet long. It lived during the Ordovician period, around 470 million years ago. Imagine an ocean predator that could pull down whales and ships. Though not likely intelligent like modern octopuses, Camarasaurus had tentacles strong enough to crush armored prey. If it existed today, ocean shipping would face a terrifying obstacle. Submarines might be built to evade or track these beasts, and fishing would be out of the question. The idea of deep-sea exploration becomes a lot darker when you know something with massive tentacles might be lurking just below. 7. Giant terrestrial sloths, Earth's gentle giants, or were they? These megatherium creatures were the size of elephants and stood over 20 feet tall on their hind legs. While primarily herbivores, they had massive claws and could cause serious damage if provoked. If megatherium existed today, jungle ecosystems would be radically different. Trees would have evolved differently to protect their leaves, and humans might not have colonized those regions at all. Could we have even built civilization with these creatures lumbering through our forests? Hard to say, but camping in their territory would be like staying in a forest filled with slow-moving wrecking balls. 8. Prionosuchus, the crocodile salamander. This monster amphibian grew up to 30 feet long and resembled a crocodile salamander hybrid. It was the apex predator of its time, living in rivers and swamps during the Permian period. If this thing was still around, every freshwater body in South America would be a danger zone. Amphibians might dominate rivers today instead of reptiles. Boating, fishing, and river commerce would need to be reimagined. And you'd never dangle your feet off a dock again, not if you wanted to keep them. 9. Leadsichthys, the bus-sized fish. Leadsichthys was a giant filter-feeding fish, over 50 feet long, rivaling the size of modern whales. Though it wasn't a predator, its sheer size would make it a hazard for shipping lanes and ocean navigation. Imagine something the size of a city bus surfacing under your boat. Even large vessels could capsize if Leadsichthys accidentally bumped into them. Coastal fishing economies would need to avoid Leadsichthys season. Marine conservation would take on an entirely new meaning with these gentle giants in the mix. 10. Brontoscorpio, the armored death scorpion. Like Pulmonoscorpius, Brontoscorpio was another giant scorpion, nearly 1 meter long, with huge claws and a spiked tail capable of deadly strikes. If it existed now, urban pest control would become national security. Imagine armored trucks rolling through neighborhoods because a nest of Brontoscorpios was spotted in a backyard. Forget rats or termites, this would be pest control on an apocalyptic level. Closing thoughts. Why aren't these monsters around anymore? Scientists believe the drop in atmospheric oxygen, the rise of predators, and dramatic climate changes led to their extinction. But one thing is clear, if they were still here today, humans would have evolved very differently. Perhaps we'd be smaller, stealthier, or even nocturnal. Or maybe we wouldn't have survived at all. The prehistoric world was a terrifying place, not just because of dinosaurs, but because of creatures we barely even talk about today. Colossal bugs, armored beasts, and aquatic nightmares once ruled this earth. Thankfully, they're gone. But if evolution ever decides to rewind the clock, let's just hope we're not around to see it.